Well, hello. Either welcome or welcome back. If you're new to the channel, basically I sit down and I watch a movie and I come and sit down here and I talk about it. And that's about it. No script, no jump cuts, nothing like that. Very bare bones. If that's interesting to you, you just want to hear a guy ramble, cool beans. If not, cool beans, really? If not, you're more than welcome to take off, eh? Anyway, let us proceed. So today we're watching, I watched Wolf Creek and we'll be talking about it, obviously, so spoiler alert, you know the drill. I just said I'll be talking about it, so if you don't want spoilers, skip ahead on the timestamp to the little part where it says, like, thoughts. Unless I spoil it there, which then I'll put in brackets spoilers, and obviously you can just skip the whole video pretty much at that point. So, anyway, let's get into it. We've got a little title card that tells us that this is based on like true events that actually happened, essentially. Something along the lines of like 30,000 people go missing in Australia, and like 90% of them are never found, 90% are found in the first week, and then some never again. I mean, that's not great statistics either, but anyway. We got our buddy Ben, who's the first person we're introduced to. He's buying a used car because his out-of-town friends from the UK are doing a little Australia trip. So they want to basically get across the island with the island. I mean, it is an island, so across the nation, that sounds more grand, with a little stop in a place called Wolf Creek National Park, which I don't know much about, but there's apparently like a big crater there and all sorts of stuff. So very cool. That's somewhere I would like to check out for sure. Crater's cool. I was at you don't care, but I'm going to tell you anyway. When I was in Iceland, I was at a crater called Kirid, I think it's pronounced. And that was very cool. So, crater's pretty cool. Anyway. What that has to do with the movie? Absolutely nothing. Anyway. He goes and picks up his friends, Liz and Christy, who are our English ladies. And they have a couple little parties on the beach and stuff and all that garbage. Anyway. It's implied, I guess, that like Christy and Ben slept together or something like that. But yeah, I think it's implied because they wake up in a bed together and she goes and puts on her pants. So she's trying to sneak out and she hits bottles. So obviously, you know, walk of shame type deal. Whatever, we've all been there. Yeah, and Liz wakes up on the beach, and they're like, ah, shit, we gotta go. We're not making good time, so start up the car, and they head out. And they go on their little road trip into the Outback. Cool. They stop and get some gas at a place, and there's some creepy guys that are asking Ben if he's okay if they have a gangbang with his two friends. So that's lovely. You know, good times. Friendly locals. Anyway, they take off. He's not going to fight them, obviously. There's like 3 of them or whatever, but anyway, they head out. They get to the Wolf Creek crater, and it's a 3-hour hike there. So they pack up their bag full of water and all kinds of stuff and head on out. Good times. Get to the crater, check it out. You know the drill. What do you do when you go investigate something out in nature? You go check it out. Duh. Anyway, point being, when they get back to the car much later, they find that, first of all, their watches no longer work. That's interesting. So, a previous night, when they had been camping out somewhere, Ben had been talking about Wolf Creek being apparently like a hotbed for UFOs. And he's kind of like really into the UFO thing, it seems. So, they're laughing at him a little bit or whatever, but he gets all like sad, and they say, okay, no, tell us. And he does. So, basically, that's what he's thinking right away, like, shit, they, there's, what do they call it, missing hours or something sometimes, or, like, clock stop. It's like an EMP thing that, like, disables everything. And sure enough, the car's disabled. Perfect. Pops the hood, can't really figure out what's going on. So they're like, shit. We're in the middle of nowhere, pretty much. Yeah, it's a national park, but you're in the middle of the Outback. It's not the most frequented place in the world, so they're probably gonna have to camp overnight, which they do. They sit in the car, and he's talking about aliens maybe doing it, and all of a sudden they see lights in the distance, And if you were walking into this blind, you'd right away think, oh shit, this is a movie about like aliens. That's crazy. Obviously, like most people know what it is by now, but I also knew what it was about. But I could see that they would get you if you haven't seen any previews and you're just watching it and you're like, oh, okay, build up to aliens, cool. The way they do the lights, it looks like it's not a vehicle or whatever, because it's raining and there's or it had been raining, so there's like water droplets on the glass that are like making the light go all not normal. Anyway, whatever. It's truck. And we're introduced to a very friendly local by the name of Mick Taylor. Very cool. Pops the hood and tests it for them and everything, and says, well, your battery's good. It's like, I'm gonna have to take a look for it or whatever, just hang tight. Anyway, a few minutes later he comes by and he's like, okay, so I got some pretty shit news for you. And then he names some part that I don't know what it is. And he says, listen, what I can do is I can tow you back to my camp. I have the part. I can put it in for you. Bob's your uncle. You'll be off by the morning. They're like, okay. Anyway, they have a little group huddle later. Little group huddle later. I guess it is kind of hard to say. Probably not. Whatever. They have a little group huddle, and the girls are a little bit nervous. They're like, we don't have any money, first of all, like, or not much anyway. He's obviously going to probably charge us for the part or the labor or something. Like, that's not great. And Ben's like, yeah, I don't really have money either. Shit. That's not good. So the girl's like, can you go ask him if he'll pull us into town instead? And we'll get it fixed there. I guess they have credit cards or something, maybe. I don't know. I mean, that makes sense. When I travel, credit cards are kind of like a pretty foolproof way of having money when you're in another country that doesn't use your currency or whatever. So it makes sense. And I'm sure some dude in the middle of the Outback probably doesn't take MasterCard. So, let alone Discover. Do people still use Discover? I don't know. Anyway, rambling. So he goes and asks, and he's like, well, I mean, town's north. I'm going south. I mean, I can take you to my camp and everything, but, like, I'm not going north, so you can wait till morning and maybe someone else will come around. Like, I'm not trying to be an ass, but, like, it literally is, like, way out of my way. Okay. So he asks, like, okay, well, what will we owe you for the repairs? And he laughs and he's like, nothing. I'm not gonna charge you for it. You're stranded in the middle of nowhere. Like, don't be an asshole. So he's like, oh, well, shit. Goes and tells the girls, and they're like, oh, okay. Well, I guess that's pretty chill to him. That's cool. So they get towed. Anyway, it must have been a long time, over like an hour for sure. And they're starting to wonder, like, where the hell is this place? And Ben's like, listen, we're in the middle of the Outback. Like, he said it's going to be a while, so, just hang tight. Anyway, eventually they do get to this camp, and it's like an abandoned, like, mining place, ghost town or something. Ghost mining camp, whatever, that he's in. And he sets up a little bonfire, and he's shooting the shit with them and everything, and they're laughing, and he's being super friendly, giving them water and everything, and telling them stories and whatnot. He says, they ask what he does, and it comes up that he, like, is sort of like an exterminator of sorts, like, goes around taking care of pests, like, he mentions kangaroos, I guess, and that's interesting. Anyway, I guess Ben thinks it would be hilarious to reference Crocodile Dundee. So he's like, this is not a knife. It's something that comes up. Anyway, the not a knife, this is a knife thing. And Mick is kind of like looking at him like, dude, really? You're gonna fucking throw that shit at me? Sorry for the swearing. He's a little more vulgar than I am, though, to be fair. Anyway, Ben looks and he kind of notices, and he's like, okay, I better calm down. In his head, he's thinking, like, so what do you do anyway? Like, what do you actually do? He looks at him, he's like, I could tell you, but I have to kill you. Nah! And he starts laughing. It's like, okay, well, shit, you got him. Anyway, one of the girls is like, you don't actually kill roos, do you? And he's like, yeah, honestly, I'm doing people a service. Like, there's so many of them out here or whatever. It's just, doing everyone a favor. Just like tourists. And then they all laugh. Ha ha ha, right? Funny. Wow. he gets to work on the truck, and Liz gives Ben polite shit. Like, you really had to drop that Crocodile Dundee shit. Like, he's helping us out. Be more polite. Like, seriously. He's like, yeah, okay, well, shit. Anyway, Liz goes up to him just again to thank him for the help. Because really, they were in a pickle, and he unpickled them, so... Fuck, that's stupid. Anyway, they pass out. Liz wakes up the next morning, looks around. She's in a shed. She's, like, zip-tied together. So that's fun. She, like, sort of stands up and looks out the window. All of her friends are gone from the camp area that they were sleeping outside by the fire. That's not good either. So she's trying to break out, but, like, zip ties are pretty... You need something sharp, right? By nightfall, she eventually finds something sharp. So there's a piece of glass laying in the shed that she could have been using this whole time. Anyway, she figures it out eventually, so that's great. And frees herself, cuts her wrists and her ankles, and opens the window and sneaks out. And she's about to run off into the night when she hears screaming. Okay, that's Christy. That's not good. So she goes over to the garage area where she hears Christy screaming from, and shut up. Some stupid car outside being loud. You probably didn't even hear it, so I'm just bitching and being an old man for nothing. But anyway, she's in this garage, basically tied to a pole. She's got blood all over her, and her pants are gone, and yeah, it's implied that he's been assaulting her in various different fashions. I'm not going to go into specifics, but I mean, bloody, no pants. There's two that pop to mind right there. Anyway, so that's fun. He's teasing her with a rifle. He's like aiming it at her, and she's like screaming, no, don't. She's like gagged too. But anyway, he's like, just kidding. You gotta, do the bolt or whatever. I don't know much about guns. I'm a Canadian, so fuck, come on. And then he pulls it to her again, and then he fires, and I guess it misses her or something. He's like, he's laughing, making fun of her. Anyway, and he starts talking, like, dirty to her. I'm not going to get into details of that. But his line that he does say, and I apologize for the language, he's like, don't worry, for cunts like you, I always use a rubber, don't know where you've been. So he's a real pleasant chap. Liz at this point is like, okay, well, this is not gonna work. So she decides to cause a little distraction, uses like the lantern thing to cause like a little explosion, and sets their car, which has now been dismantled, by the way. Like the engine is out and everything. It's completely not functional. Sets an explosion, lights the car on fire. Mick obviously is like, son of a roo. And he goes out and he's trying to put the fire out. And Liz runs in to Christy, and she's trying to like calm her down and untie her and everything. But Mick puts the fire out. Excuse me. Why am I coughing all the time? God, that's probably annoying. That was like a sneeze cough. Anyway. Yeah, he's put the fire out, and he comes back in, and Liz goes and hides under a table or something. Give me a second here. I need some water. Hooray. Okay. Where were we? Right, comes in, and he's doing his roast thing. He, like, cuts her loose and is gonna, like, assault her. And all of a sudden, he's like, I don't think so. Click, click, gun aimed right at him. He's like, okay, that's not a good. Drop her. And he kind of, like, lets her go a little bit. He's like, listen, you don't want to be messing around with that thing. And she's, like, just on him right there. Like, girl, you can, like, start running. Anyway, and he's like, give me the fucking... And then bang, she shoots him in the neck. Blood. He grabs it, and then he falls. Motionless on the ground. Pool of blood. Good job, Liz, right? Right on. She runs to the car with Christy, and they try to start it, but of course there's no keys. So Liz runs back in and goes to the body and fishes through his pockets and gets like a key ring of a bunch of keys, which comes into play later. Eventually starts the car, but our good friend Mick ain't dead. He comes standing out with a shotgun, blows out the glass in the windshield, does 2 shots. They don't get hit, thankfully. So Liz is like, okay, well, fuck this. And she just drives like straight towards the garage. She jumps out of the way, but she smashes down the walls and everything. And she's looking. No sign of him. Okay, well, I'm not going to stick around. He's got a gun, so she takes off. Drives off in his little truck there. They get to a cliff, and they decide to push it off. You know, no evidence, I guess. And if he does find it and he sees it crashed, he'll, you know, either assume they're dead or he'll go down and investigate and buy them some time. And they decide to climb down the cliff also, which I guess is fair. Like, probably better chance of hiding there than like running on like the flat openness where he's gonna chase after you, which he does. He comes in a vehicle and you see the headlights and he's looking down, he sees the truck. He's putting the flashlight down, but they're far down enough the cliff that he can't really see them. Or at least that's what you are to believe. So he starts going down the side of the hill towards the truck to go investigate it. They take this opportunity to climb up, and right away in my head, it's like, guys, you're like standing right in front of the headlights. He's absolutely going to see that, but I guess they are just so panicked and whatnot. So anyway, they get into the vehicle, and of course the keys aren't there. Why would they be? Whatever. Anyway, so Liz is like, listen, chill for a second, hang tight. I will get back in like 5 minutes, because they didn't drive too far from his camp. So she assumes he's gonna have other cars there. She's got a key ring of like car keys and all that shit. So she's like, I'll be back. If I'm not back in 5 minutes, just bolt. She's like, don't leave me, blah, 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 whatever. Anyway, she goes back to the camp, and she finds a bunch of stuff, like people's belongings, like blankets and suitcases, camcorders, everything. And there's like a bulletin board with like people's personal family photos on it, and like driver's license and different bills from around the world pinned. So I guess he's collecting, right? Yeah, she finds a camcorder and she looks at it, and there's like a family that had the same experience as them, like exactly, and it shows them filming the Wolf Creek area, and their car is stuck, and you see good old Mick pull up and do the exact same spiel with them, and you know, there's video clips of them driving and whatever. Yeah, lo and behold, so that's one of his victims. Then she finds Ben's camera, and there's a clip that he recorded at that gas station way back then when she sees Mick's truck. So he's been following them since the gas station. That's nice, eh? Anyway, that really isn't important. At one point, she ends up falling down like a mine shaft or something, or whatever, and at the bottom of it, there are like a bunch of human bodies and stuff, and she's flashlighting, like, oh god, okay. So she gets the hell out of there and stumbles upon the garage with all of the victims' cars. Perfect. So she gets into one of the cars, and she's frantically fumbling through the key ring, trying key after key, finally gets one start. Then you hear in the backseat, Mick's in the backseat, and he takes his Bowie knife through the back of the seat, through Liz. Not great. Liz tries to escape and gets her fingers chopped off, and then he calls her a head on a stick and proceeds to Bowie knife through her spine, severing her spinal cord, leaving her paralyzed, so she cannot escape officially. Let's cut back to Christy, what she's been up to these days. Well, it's been 5 minutes clearly, so she's running to the highway, and she does make it to the highway. Hooray! And a motorist eventually comes by and is like, oh my god, are you okay? And she gets in the car and crying, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna like get something to bandage you up, whatever, and get you some water from the back of the car, and goes around to the back of the car. And what always happens to the friendly motorist who tries to help people? Yeah, exactly, he gets shot and dead. So he dead. I don't know why they always try that. Like, in the UK, do people just leave their keys in the ignition? Because every single car, they try the ignition first. And, like, no. Anyway, she goes back, and it's in the hood of the trunk of the car. The boot, whatever you want to call it. Whatever country you're in. It's in the back part of the car that you open. Anyway, she takes it and drives off, and he's following her clearly. He's, like, coming, speeding down towards her, and she's driving, and her car is not... well, this dude's car that tried to help her is not the fastest in the world. It's like a... Yeah. Anyway, he catches up, and she ends up sideswiping him off the road a little bit, though, so that's good, into a ditch. And she's like, haha, all excited and happy, and... Yeah, he just gets out of the car and takes out his rifle and blows out her tire, and the car flips, and lands on the side of the road, and she's like severely injured, and he walks up and he's standing about maybe like 3 meters away from the car, watching her struggle to get out of the car and collapse on the ground and struggle to crawl away, and she lifts her head, and then bang, he just shoots her and walks up and double taps her. So she's dead. So we got 2 deaths. Now, what's going on with our boy Ben? We haven't heard from him. He wakes up in like a mine shaft or a cave or something, crucified. So he's got like, he's zip tied to these boards and like nails coming out of here. So that's fun. And he's looking around, and there's a corpse of some other dude in the same situation as him, obviously did not escape, and a bunch of caged dogs. So that's fun. Anyway, he very painfully pulls his hand, the nail, yeah. Anyway, he frees himself through pain and slips out of the zip ties, because I guess they're holding him up when he's like nailed up, but like if you take the nails out, he can like, you know, physics, whatever, it doesn't matter. He gets out, runs off in the outback, night falls, he's like dying of thirst, basically collapses, is eventually found by a foreign couple, another bunch of tourists in like a hippie van or something. I think they're like Swedish or Norwegian or Danish or something. Anyway, they take him to the nearby town, which has a population of like 400, but they phone in an airlift and he gets taken out to the hospital, and that's pretty much the end of it. We get a little title card that says no trace of Liz or Christy has ever been found, and that Ben, upon healing, was taken into custody by the police and held for 4 months because his story had nothing to, you know, back it, essentially. So he's a suspect, right? It's his friends that are dead, and he's fine, right? Whatever, I don't know. Anyway, he's released after 4 months, and then they show Mick with his rifle walking into the sunset. So happy ending all around. And that's Wolf Creek. So what did I think about it? Pretty solid. So the characters were fairly believable, honestly. Like there was the chemistry was good between like the group of friends. Like you could tell that they were pretty good buds. Something I didn't mention, but has no impact on the story really, so I don't count it as a spoiler, is there's kind of like a 3-way romance thing going on. So Ben, you know, again, it's implied from what I saw anyway that he slept with Christy, and then Christy had told him, okay, well, like Liz really likes you or something like that, and so he like has a little moment with Liz at Wolf Creek where they smooch, and then they go back to the car, and then there's tension, and when he's trying to look at the hood and Liz is in the car, and Christy's like, are you gonna tell her? And he's like, she already knows, and whatever. Anyway, there's like the tension is you know, real, but he's not played as like a fuckboy, if you'll excuse the terminology. So you don't hate him really, and you don't want him to die, essentially. So I mean, all the characters are pretty good for the most part, like I said. Believable, not annoying as shit. You kind of want him to live. I'm not gonna say who does and doesn't in this part because it's supposed to be no spoilers, and I almost spoiled it. Bad. Yeah, so that's good. The scenery is gorgeous. Like I don't know much about the Outback, to be completely honest. So this was like, I've seen like clips on nature shows and stuff, but like they really show the grandness of it in this movie, which is pretty cool. I mean, maybe it doesn't, but for a guy who's never been there, it looks pretty epically grand. Maybe an Aussie can back me up or tell me I'm wrong and say no, it's way bigger than that. But anyway, it looked great. Scenery is beautiful. I kind of want to go to Wolf Creek Crater, but I also kind of don't after watching this. So, you know, if Mick's out there, not really into it. But yeah, overall, pretty solid. I don't think it's like the greatest movie in the history of time by any means, but it's good. So should you watch it? I would say yeah, it's good watch. I don't know how often I'll be coming back to it, but I enjoyed watching it as I did. It's one of those films, right? I wouldn't call it a watch once and be done with it, but yeah. Great explanation. Anyway, so yeah, go watch it. It's I watched it on Roku, so I don't know what it's streaming on other than that. I have like a bunch of streaming services, and Roku was the only one that was on, so I don't think in Canada at least you can watch it without ads. unless you go on to, you know, ye old Putlocker or something like that. But I watched it on Roku because I got a Roku TV, so whatever. Anyway, yeah, you should watch it. Rating. I think it's not quite a 7, but I think it's more than 6. And I think it's a fair amount more than 6. So let's go 6.75. I'm trying to compare it to things that I remember what I rated. So like my ratings probably, if you like made a spreadsheet, no one's gonna do this, but if you had a spreadsheet of all my ratings and stuff, they're probably not in order of what movie I like the most, because I was a little too generous in my earlier videos. But anyway, 6.75, that's what I'm gonna give this one. And yeah, Bob's your uncle, right? Or what did he say? Bob's your sister or something like that? I think that's what he said in this movie, something like that. I don't know. It's funny. Oh yeah, one more thing I'll just add is that the character of Mick Taylor, like, they do a really good job of making him very likable initially, and then when he becomes sadistic, that's not really a spoiler because, I mean, if you've seen any of the previews, you know what kind of a movie this is. Unless you thought it was Aliens, then oops, it's not Aliens. Big surprise. But yeah, his character was good. When he's chill and like friendly, he's a cool dude. When he's a sadistic sumbitch, then he's a sadistic sumbitch. And I've heard that there is a Wolf Creek 2, and yeah, I'm probably gonna have to check that out after watching this one because I am intrigued. I don't know if there's a 3 or more than that, but I'm gonna have to watch 2 at some point. So, anyway, rambling. Let's end this here. You should definitely check out Wolf Creek. It's pretty darn cool. Yeah. That's it. All right. Peace. Bye.